Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
It's all for you, Damien.
Hello, welcome to YCFT. We haven't done a versus in a while. We right in the last one was like last spooky season with Haunted Mansion,
I
maybe?
think it probably was Haunted Mansion. I can't remember doing one since then.
We're doing The Omen.
We're doing The Omen.
We're doing The Omen.
The Omens.
We're comparing 1976 The Omen versus 2006 The Omen. It's been on a lot of our minds because the first Omen came out, which we didn't get a chance to see.
We didn't, annoyingly.
But we
Looked pretty good.
watched the first one in prep in case I did get a chance to go see it. And I think you'd watched the 2006 one and wanted me to give it a watch. So I kind of watched them within a couple of days of each other.
Yeah, I'd seen both of them like when I was a kid, 2006. I probably watched it when it first came out, and I had seen it since then as well.
Can I have to start it? The Omen isn't one of our favourite movies.
Not necessarily.
I think this time round I enjoyed it the most.
Mm-hmm.
I always appreciated it and I enjoy watching it, but it never blows me away.
Much respect to the movie. Obviously, it's one of those classics. Yeah, it's not necessarily one of the classics that I return to a lot, but do really enjoy it.
What was the writer called in this one, of the original?
The writer, David Seltzer.
So he also wrote the remake.
He did.
We realised 2006 was a busy year for remakes.
It actually was. Like, when you actually really think about it, it was the year for remakes.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
And very few of them good.
Yeah, with a couple of exceptions here and there.
The unions basically denied him full writing credit because they said his script was too similar to the one he wrote for the original Omen. That leads into my overall opinion, kind of early on the 2006 one. I think the movie is fine. But that's the problem.
2006 Omen is a very okay film. There is nothing groundbreaking about it. There is nothing it does better than the original. It is just very okay.
Yeah.
And yes, that is in and of itself a problem.
So usually with a lot of verses, things are quite different. You know, when say, oh, they did this, so they did this, and that meant this. But what if they'd done that? Oh, but they did this instead. This one, I think, we're very much going to mainly have like specific scenes that are to compare.
Yes.
More than anything. So the tale of both Omen films, I guess, is we follow what's our main character called?
Damien.
No, we don't follow Damien though. That's the thing, in both movies, Damien is actually not a big part of the film. He has very little screen time. No, I mean Damien's dad.
Damien's dad, right.
We follow Robert. And at the beginning of the film, he is a politician. Mm-hmm. And his wife has gone into labour and they lose the child. And unbeknownst to her, he adopts a child born on the same evening whose mother passed away in childbirth. And essentially just replaces the child.
The old switcheroo.
The old switcheroo. God, what a scandal that would be. I know. And
it's pretty devious.
It is pretty devious. And several years there, he becomes the American ambassador for the UK.
He does.
So they move over to the UK in this nice big house. Damien's a little bit older. Throughout the film, strange things kind of start happening around this child. And you get a priest gets in touch with him, trying to tell him that he knows what happened. That basically, he knows that the child was switched. And that the child is evil.
Yes.
And that he could be the Antichrist. And we've also got a photographer who starts following the strange events.
Yes.
That are going on. And they kind of go on this adventure to try and find out what really happened. And at the place where, the child was born has now been burned down.
Mm-hmm.
He's convinced that he might have to kill his own child because he might be the son of the devil.
Yes.
You knew Damien as a character very well before watching The Omen, even though you watched it when you were very young.
I can't remember exactly how old I was when I watched the first one. I watched the 76 film before I ever saw the 06 movie. I remember that. But even at the time when I watched 1976, I was fully aware of the concept of Damien as the Antichrist. And the more I think about it, the more I probably think in my head it was something to do with Only Fools and Horses, because they call it Del Boy's son is called Damien, and obviously Rodney thinks like he is the Antichrist as well. So, I don't know. I just always knew going into The Omen, Damien is definitively the Antichrist. Like, there is no room for interpretation. There's no room for doubt. He, the little son of a bitch, is the devil's child. So, yes.
Yeah. Well, so Richard Donner was the director of the original film.
Yes.
I suppose most famous for directing Superman.
Yeah, did he also do The Goonies? Am I right in saying that?
Maybe, I can't remember.
He's a prolific director.
Yeah. Goonies also isn't really one of my... I don't really rate the Goonies that much.
No,
That's...
Bye.
Before the pitchforks arrived. He filmed a lot of the film, making it that it's up to the audience to decide whether or not he is the Antichrist.
He wanted more ambiguity.
Yeah, and the ending of the movie... Like, we all spoiled the ending. These films are very famous at this point. So he filmed an ending which was also very ambiguous and leave it there and the audience make up their minds. And Seltzer did not like that, and they refilmed an ending. The famous ending where Damien looks towards the camera, which Barry's Richard Donner told him behind the camera, was like, Thomas, don't you laugh. Don't you laugh. Don't you smile. And that's him trying his best not to smile. That's how we got that very famous look.
It's reverse psychology.
Works perfectly, and it's such a famous shot.
It is.
It's probably one of the most this second most famous shot in the film, I'm going to say.
Yes, I would agree.
And that kind of ending, along with the 666 birthmarkers, oh, he is the Antichrist. But for me, when I watched this movie, even before knowing that it was filmed, a lot of it was filmed to be ambiguous, I wasn't convinced that he was the Antichrist throughout it. I see a lot of grown men telling Damien's father that this child is evil and weird things happening, but without Damien directly doing it. It's more like there's like a force field around him and a field of influence where things happen, but he's not doing evil things directly.
No.
He just barely even seems to be aware.
No.
That's probably because, well, with both films, the kids didn't know they were in horror movies.
That's just
they said, cause
how they do it.
I think in both they said if you tell a child to act evil, you're going to get a very particular type of performance out of it.
Yeah.
So, when I watched the original film especially, I think the older characters believe he is the Antichrist, and they convince his dad that he is. And when they're talking about prophecies and mixing it with real events that have happened, they're twisting a lot of events to fit a prophecy. And I find that more interesting than he is just straight up the Antichrist. And that's what 2006 is. Seltzer made them go more down the road of, he is definitively the Antichrist. And I find that less interesting.
It's fascinating to me.
That was a long-winded way for me to get back to that point. Two very, very different approaches to the film.
It is interesting because even now, knowing that was the director's intention, that he wanted more ambiguity, he wanted it to be more kind of left to the viewer to decide, is this kid really the devil's child, or is it all just, a load of hokum, and the adults are just taken in by all the conspiracy theories. Even now, knowing that was the director's intention, when I rewatch this, I'm still like, no, this is the Antichrist. It's interesting how we're seeing different. Yeah,
I mean, the birthmark is pretty definitive.
Well, that's the point. Like, any doubters, you see the 666 on that kid's head, and you're like, okay, that ain't no birthmark.
There's no guarantee that wasn't put there when he was a baby.
I mean, even so like this. Are you saying that there's still room for debate? I
still think there is, because it was all orchestrated. Obviously, he was on purposely given Damien.
Yeah.
And we know from the film that his real child was actually killed when it was first born. It was made to look like he died during childbirth.
The child was like murdered.
So many steps already being made to make sure Damien ends up in the hands of someone with power and influence.
Political power.
And if they genuinely believe he is the Antichrist, why wouldn't they just give him a bit of a scar that looks like a birthmark of 666? Oh, it might have been noticed. I don't know. For me, there's still room for debate. I know the sequels are very much lock in that he is, but I find it more fun to think that he might not be. And I lose that in the 2006 one.
Because the 06 one, Seltzer got to do what he really wanted in the original, and no, this is the Antichrist.
How much do you think they fought to have the 6 for the 606 be their release date?
Oh, they would have loved it.
Oh, absolutely loved it. 30 years after the original
30
came out.
years, yeah. That amazing, perfectly aligned.
Amazing marketing. I would say what I really like. Both kids are great. We'll get into the cast a bit.
Yeah.
But the teaser trailer for this was the test screen for the kid.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I think it was really well done.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear in the movie at all.
No, I don't think it does actually.
No,
as a teaser,
it absolutely doesn't. It's a very, very good teaser.
Yeah.
The Omen is classed as a cursed film. We could do a whole video talking about the curse of the Omen.
Just cursed films in general.
Just cursed films in general.
Because there's only a few.
It's one of those ones, like, you were watching the Cursed Films TV series on Shudder.
On Shudder, yeah.
And this is one of those ones where they had to pad the episode a lot by bringing, like, witches and stuff like that and black magicians. And there is, granted, there are weird things that happened, a couple of weird coincidences.
Yeah.
But ultimately, a lot of it can be explained away. A couple of just, or, you know, like with my theory about the film, twisting facts to fit. Because ultimately, would it be a stretch to say they were trying to chase the type of clout that The Exorcist had, being a cursed film?
Yes.
Because this film is a direct result of that.
Yeah, not long after The Exorcist.
Yeah, they wanted it to have that notoriety.
Yeah, and also the Amityville Horror, I think, was before The Omen, and that was, you know, also notoriously, not necessarily a cursed movie, but I think it was one of those films where it was, you know, espoused at the time, like, oh, there was weird stuff happening on the set, and, you know, we had to come in and have the set blessed. And I think the cast especially were told to perpetuate this, you know, this thing of like, yeah, like the house was haunted and it was a weird set to be on. I think a lot of the cast came forward and said
same year, was it?
Yeah.
But the director and producer both said, like, it's not cursed. It's like, ultimately, like, nothing bad has happened to them that made the film. They actually went on to have, like, really good good careers and stuff.
Donna and Seltzer, you know, in the cursed films thing on Shudder, both of them were definitively asked, like, do you think this was a cursed film? And they said, personally, no, because, you know, we flourished in the wake of this movie. It's brought us nothing but, you know, good times and a lot of good paychecks.
Well, was it Gregory Peck whose plane was struck by lightning, wasn't it?
His plane was struck by lightning, and someone else in the crew, I think their plane was also struck by lightning.
There was an animal keeper who, the day after they shot, was killed by a lion.
Yes, something along those lines.
Yeah, but they obviously, if it was cursed, wouldn't they have died in the plane crash?
But so they do raise this in this documentary as well. It's like, well, surely if this film was truly cursed, if the devil did not want this movie to be made, wouldn't Gregory Peck have died in that plane crash? Wouldn't the crew member have died in?
What was the crash? Was it?
Sorry, not the crash. Yeah. It was struck. Yeah, sorry. Wouldn't they've died? You know, or wouldn't the devil, with all the power that he apparently has, like, go to greater lengths to make sure this movie didn't get made? And they kind of twisted it, and they said, well, if anything, it kind of seems like he was condoning the movie.
I know there was
wanted it to get made.
There was an event, like a car crash that happened long after the film, which has a couple of, like, weird coincidences. But we could do a whole video on this. Like, it's so famous at this point, but it seems like it was. This idea of being cursed was just chasing what The Exorcist had.
You can definitely join the dots if you want to.
You can join the dots to anything if you try hard enough.
I have an open mind when it comes to stuff like this. I think I do believe in the concept of a curse. And bad feeling can bring about bad juju. But I think with The Omen, it's one of them where, I don't know, you know, sometimes things just kind of happen. Coincidences do exist.
Especially when you try and find coincidences.
When you're looking for things, you know, you can make a puzzle fit. You know, you can squeeze the pieces together.
You can squeeze a square into a circle hole if you try hard.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, should we talk about the cast? You want to tell me, like, give me a list of characters and who plays them in each film?
In each film?
Yeah.
All right, well, obviously, we've got Robert Thorne. He's the main guy. OG film is played by Gregory Peck. Great actor. Hadn't worked in a few years because he had dealing with his own personal tragedy. His son had committed suicide not that long before the movie. And I also think, like, it was way past Gregory Peck's heyday as well. He was kind of I don't know, his fame was kind of on the decline in the mid-70s. But he plays Robert. His modern day counterpart in 2006, Liev Schreiber. Excellent actor. Wife, Kathy. Original is played by Lee Remick. Great actress. Remake, Julia Stiles.
Also a great actress.
Also a great counterpart. And what are the names of the other characters? So we've got the priest, the father, Patrick Troughton in the OG. Great actor.
Yep, Doctor Who.
Modern day, Pete Postlethwaite.
Also a great actor.
The photographer, David Warner, replaced by David Thewlis. And one of my favourites, Mrs. Baylock, the nanny, the sinister nanny, obviously played by the brilliant Billy Whitelaw in 1976. Modern day, Mia Farrow. And I actually think that casting is a stroke of genius. Mia Farrow, obviously, probably most famous for, aside from being married to Woody Allen for a time, was obviously Rosemary in Rosemary's Baby, which a movie is, again, all about a devil child. So to cast her, you know, people already carrying those connotations of Mia Farrow, to cast her in this movie, going back to what you were saying, like David Seltzer, by the time the remake came along, definitively wanting to hit home, like, this is the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Casting Mia Farrow is just underlining that point. You know, I actually really like that. But basically, I think what I'm trying to say is, like, the modern day counterparts in 2006 cannot be faulted. This is a solid cast.
Absolutely solid cast.
These are great actors.
I think one thing I kind of want to jump on straight away with Julia Stiles is, I think her portrayal of a mother who's going through some stuff, because as things start to happen, starts to struggle and starts to, like, question her own child. I do think in 2006 one, that is shown better.
I agree. Her breakdown is just done in a more realistic way in 2006. We also spend a little bit more time with her.
Yeah.
Like, we have a few more scenes with her and Damien, and her kind of piecing something together in her brain, like, something is not right with my son. And we have that moment where, you know, she's in bed and she's crying because she's you know, thinks, oh, I need to go and see a psychiatrist because I think there's something wrong with our son and I shouldn't be feeling this way. It's done a little bit kind of clunkily in 1976 by comparison, and like more Lee Remick, as I say, she's a great actress, but in 1976 it's there's more of like an emotional distance, and I do think they could have made more of like the mother's turmoil in the original, but it's something they do right in 2006.
Other than that, I cast for the 2006 one, but I don't think anyone puts in like an eyebrow raising performance. Everyone seems very like a bit bored.
Well, Liev Schreiber, by comparison, I mean, Liev Schreiber also has a very distinctive voice. It's very similar to Gregory Peck, you know, like very deep and very kind of stern. But Liev Schreiber's delivery is very one note.
Yeah.
Like, even in like the most harrowing of scenes, Liev Schreiber just sounds very monotone.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of oomph. I also think Julia Stiles is holding back quite a lot as well. Julia Stiles can act. She's a really good actress, but there's just not a lot of...
Yeah. Who directed the 2006 one?
Guy called John Moore. Doesn't ring a bell for me either.
Yeah. Alright, the two kids that played Damien.
Yes, so we have 1976. We've got little Harvey Stevens, who was actually a blondie in real life. His hair was dyed. I think he had to wear contacts for it as well. Real life, blonde hair, blue eyes. 2006, Seamus Davy Fitzpatrick.
I think both kids do a great job.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
Again, they're not... When you think about it, Damien actually isn't a big part of the film. Like, it's not a very demanding role.
You mentioned it earlier. Damien is not a character that when he's on screen we fear.
No.
Because
two cute kids are playing him.
Cute kids.
Yeah.
In both adaptations, it's not like we see Damien running around with a knife killing people. Damien is not outwardly evil. There is just like this unseen force around the characters that's, you know, doing like this Final Destination-esque horrible force. That's the thing we should be scared of. That, you know, is
not
like
the child,
not the actual child himself.
And it's a question of, is Damien doing this, or is it this otherworldly force protecting him? But then also, like, not even necessarily protecting him, because a lot of things it does are a distance away from him.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
We'd like to shout out our groovy members. We appreciate everything you do for this channel and helping us grow. You guys are awesome.
The original Omen did inspire Final Destination. 2006 feels like a film that came out after Final Destination, because the kills lean even more into that.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the first film I have a soft spot for purely because it's very English. For an American film,
it is.
there's something so English about it.
You can tell they shot over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of the accents, the buildings, you can tell. Like, 2006, it's set in England, but it was not filmed in England, and it lost something for me.
Yeah,
it really, really did.
I agree.
Harvey has a cameo in 2006, doesn't he? He plays a reporter.
Yeah.
Like, that's nice to see him appear.
Love that.
Was she on drugs, Ambassador?
Excuse me.
Do you think the suicide will affect your performance?
Should we compare the iconic scenes that they
Let's do
changed?
it.
Because there's no point really talking about changes in the story, because they don't make any changes in the story.
Let's do it. The classic scene.
the hanging of
The nanny.
the nanny.
This, aside from...
This is the most famous scene in the film.
Followed probably by, the little head turn at the end and the little coy smile. Yeah, the nanny suicide. One of the most iconic scenes in probably all of horror.
It's all for you, Damien.
Look at me, Damien.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
1976, we get the nanny preceding the hanging. Obviously, she has that stare down with the is it a Rottweiler?
Yeah.
With the dog. And the next minute, we know she's in the house, up on a balcony, hangs herself, and it's jarring. What makes it even more horrifying, obviously, is that it's at Damien's birthday party. There's kids everywhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's during the day, and there's nothing building up to that scene other than that weird stare down with the dog, which again, like evil force. Like, I don't know if it just in terms of like interpretation. Anyway, yeah, she kills herself. It is shocking. There's nothing particularly gory about it in the 76 one. What I really like, obviously, when the body falls down and smashes into the window, you get that like great like tension break, I suppose. But I really love the reactions of people afterwards, because the sheer horror on Lee Remick's face, the camera kind of lingers on her, and she shields Damien from it, and she's just kind of staring just blankly at what she's seeing. They can't even digest what she's seeing. 2006.
Doesn't crash into a window afterwards.
We don't get the window crash.
It's still a good scene.
I just think it's a little bit understated.
Yeah. Is it Lee Schreiber's holding Damien at this point?
It's Lee Schreiber, yeah, it's not the mum.
Yeah, and I don't think he turns him away.
No, I don't think he does either.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a good scene. It's just...
Okay.
It doesn't have that oomph as the original.
It doesn't have the oomph.
And I think that this is the trend we're going to see with every scene.
Yeah.
Missing something. So, the zoo. The famous zoo scene.
Yeah.
Where they take Damien to the zoo and animals start acting strange. Like, how often do you see giraffes run away from something?
Yeah.
I just really like that. The monkeys going crazy, which I think they did. They had a sedated monkey in the back seat, and that's why the monkeys were going as crazy as they did. I think Lee Remick was generally terrified in that scene as well. It's like, I've been to a zoo where you drive through monkeys. When they start climbing over the cars, it is actually pretty scary. But I can't even imagine what it'd be like when they're actually losing their shit. And I really, really enjoy it. And Damien's just like...
Yeah, Damien's...
He's just chilling.
He's just
I'd say my
chilling.
favourite bit is, I don't know why, I just love seeing the giraffes run away.
Yeah.
Now, you know an animal where you think, it's so ridiculous that unicorns don't exist, but somehow giraffes do.
Yeah, you know that.
Isn't it possible? So, giraffes can't throw up, can they?
No, they can't throw up.
Yeah.
It's too long a distance to travel.
Really, really good scene. 2006. It's an enclosure that they go to. Like a zoo, it's like an inside one. And... again, they start acting a bit strange, but it's again more understated. The only thing I quite like, even though it is still understated, this is when it kind of establishes that other kids are wary of Damien. He struggles to make friends. And you see him like stood on his own with kids on either side of him. I like that. Could have done a bit more.
Absolutely.
Could have done a bit more. And it just, again, doesn't have the impact
No,
of the original one.
it doesn't. It's like, I don't really see the point.
Also, there's a very dulled colour palette in this film.
There is. I don't see the point in upping the scale of a scene like that, where we're going to have more characters, we're going to have children in the scene to up the ante and, up the stakes as well, to ultimately not do anything with that. The kids just run away frightened.
Yeah.
Nothing actually really happens, though. It just seems like a bit of a wasted...
All it does is kind of frame Damien as an outsider. And in this one, Damien he looks a little bit older.
Yeah.
So we can do a bit... essentially, you could do a bit more of him, but you don't.
There's also, I think, a scene preceding the, baboon or zoo attack. The scene where the three of them are in the car and they're on the way to church.
Oh, having a fit on the way to church.
And he has a bit of a hissy fit, and he goes crazy and he starts like attacking his mum. Now, the reason I think I pointed this out, I think both scenes actually it's kind of done well, because at the end of the day, it's a kid just like losing his shit.
I gotta say, I know this kind of leads into it's Antichrist because he had a fit going to church. I used to have to go to church when I was younger. I did not want to go to church. To that is me. That is a kid just having a tantrum.
I think you could arguably
I have had tantrums having to go to church on a Sunday morning because I do not want to go.
You could just say that this is a kid just being a little shit and just, causing havoc for his mum and dad. Yeah, you could. I'll give you that. You could just say that. The reason, though, that I think it's interesting is in 1976, it's Robert that is getting suspicious of Damien's behaviour. It's Robert that's calling out to Kate saying, do you think we need to take him to a doctor, maybe? Like, and it's Kate that brushes it off.
Yeah.
She's the one that's like, no, it's fine. It's just a boy. It's fine. It's a boy. He's just being a little boy. 2006, the car attack happens after Kate is suspicious, and it's Julia Stiles telling Liev Schreiber, I think there's something up with Damien.
Yeah. There's a scene that I quite like where he's just sitting playing video games and just actually just getting annoyed and tells him, just take him away.
Take him out of the room.
It almost makes me think what they should have swapped the roles.
Yes.
And have the mother be the one that goes to investigate and maybe finds out, because ultimately the mother never finds out that Damien isn't actually her child.
No, she doesn't.
And I think that could have been a really interesting change.
Yeah.
I like her reaction too, because she knows her son, but at the same time feels like she doesn't know her son because it's not her son.
I also think, like, David Seltzer maybe realised when he was writing the script for 2006, like, oh, actually, like, the mum is... We need to do more with her.
Yeah.
And
so we'll give her flashbacks or weird dream sequences.
That's very
I don't
2006.
I don't like it.
It's so obviously a dream sequence as well, like the bright white walls and like the red. Yeah. But I do like how Seltzer clearly realised, like,
we could do more with her.
Yeah, and actually maybe the role should have been reversed, because it, as I say, like 2006, it's Julia Stiles, it's the mom that is clocking on early. Something is wrong with Damien.
If he had swapped the roles, maybe he could have got that writing credit.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because that would be a significant change.
Yeah, quite possibly.
The father's death. Famously in the original, obviously, a spike falls off the top of the church and impales him, almost looking like a crucifixion. Like the way he's kind of like stood like that. And is it Pete Postlethwaite, did you say he plays him in the remake? In the remake. It was, again, a great British actor.
Fantastic.
Always like him whenever he pops up. And I do really like this scene. One thing the 76 has, it's during the daytime.
Yes.
This one, it's stormy, it's rainy, and he does get impaled again, but also, like, a stained glass window shatters and he just gets impaled.
It's gnarlier and it's gorier.
So, ultimately, I like both. I like how simple it is in 76, but I also like how over the top it is in 2006. It's hard to know which one I prefer, because they're similar enough and different enough that I can appreciate.
I agree with that.
It's one of the few things that, to me, takes advantage of digital effects at the time of 2006. All right, because it's a simple effect, isn't it? I think they asked him just to stand like that, and they did a sound effect. They just cut, because you don't actually see it go in, because it's hard.
No, he just kind of slumps.
Yeah, and it looks good for the time.
It does look very good.
It works. And it's like, all right, let's push about what more could we do in this scene?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I like that.
Yeah. Can I just ask, as again someone who's always like, is clearly the Antichrist, versus someone who's like, maybe he isn't, the photographs, the detail, like the foreshadowing of the subject's death within the photo.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well,
to me,
again,
please.
it could just be another worldly force. Might not even necessarily be Damien, because Damien is so far away from this. I could say, it could be a development problem. Like, I would say, I think there is something. I just don't personally think it's Damien.
A likely story.
Yeah, it's weird. I'll
It is
give
weird.
it that. And I do, the whole photograph side of thing I really do like, and I like when they go, especially in 2006, when they go back to his place. He's got pages of the Bible everywhere. I really like that. I think that's really cool.
I will say, in terms of the cast as well, I know we've talked about how the modern day cast don't feel like they're giving it their all. They're in it for the paycheck. I out of all of them, Pete Postlethwaite to me feels like he is.
I don't think he's ever done a subdued performance in it.
No,
in his entire career.
He was a great actor, but he has that like manic energy that Troughton did in the original.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was.
It
great.
feels very similar. The Troughton's performance feels similar to his clove one from Scars of Dracula.
Yeah, it does.
I like
actually.
manic Patrick Troughton. What about the mother's falling scene?
Oh, the death. So Kate's death. I think she's called Kathy in 76.
No, not a death when she falls.
Oh, the banister
Yeah.
scene. Yes, yeah, definitely. Okay, I like it. To be fair, I like it in both.
I like it both. Neither of
Janky effects.
Janky effects. I like how in 2006 she falls slower,
Yeah,
and we can kind of. I mean, there was that on some sort of crane, like lying down and sort of like lower. I quite like that.
I think that didn't they do it like she's actually just standing and like sideways falls into the thing, and then I'm sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
It was very
In both ones,
simple.
I know they try to make it look like it's Damien because he's riding around in his little bike. Again, that just looks like an accident.
Cool.
The problem I kind of have of the kids just not being very threatening. Damien, help me. It's like, how is he going to help?
Damien is basically oblivious to like all the bad things that is going on around. He doesn't react either way. He doesn't react positively to all the bad stuff. He doesn't react negatively to any of the bad stuff.
He's a kid actor and to protect them, they have no idea what's going on in this film.
No, it's like the kid in The Shining. He just thought he was making a family drama. Yeah, he had no idea it was a horror film until many years later. Either way, though, I think the banister scene is interesting. Yeah, it's all the more sad because obviously at both films, we know for a fact that she is pregnant.
Yeah.
She is expecting another baby. We also know, both adaptations, she has no intention of keeping the baby. She does not want to... There's something telling her not to have a child.
Isn't there a scene in 2006 when she goes to the hospital? And he's like, oh, she's pregnant. Doesn't the nurse just go, no, she's not?
Internal bleeding.
That's our biggest worry at the moment.
She's pregnant.
I'm afraid not.
She lost the child.
Yes.
There was something like, if you pointed it out, like you thought that the way that the nurse delivered the news of like, oh, not anymore, something like that you thought was just like a little bit too jarring.
It was. It's like, you just found out that...
the blow.
Yeah, you just found out that his pregnant wife is no longer pregnant.
Yeah.
And you're just like, it's like, basically, oh, she was pregnant? Oh. They might as well have been like, she's not now.
To be fair...
And it was just like, oh, okay.
Liev Schreiber's reaction is just as expressionless as he has been throughout most of the movie. I don't think he
might as well go into her death now then.
Kate and Kathy's death.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously 76, the great scene of, it's Mrs. Baylock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pushes Kathy out the window, and obviously, Kathy's like so many floors above, so many floors high in the hospital. Great scene, crashes down into the ambulance, obviously stone cold dead.
I think because the Omen, it's a slow burn. I think it's an injection of... That was a bit of a joke. It's an injection of like, ugh, right when it needs it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah,
it's also just iconic, and I just really like it as a scene.
Yeah, it's 2006
is a bit more understated, but also a bit more personal.
I like the 06 death. I think I like it a bit more than you do.
Yeah.
It's a very different scale. We don't get Kate being pushed out of the window. We don't get the slam into the ambulance. What we do get is Mrs. Baylock very sadistically, in a very calculated move, causing an embolism into Cassie's, like, tube, into the IV drip. Yeah, thank you. Kate is all too aware of what is happening. She can't do anything about it because Mrs. Baylock has subdued her. And Mia Farrow as Mrs. Baylock is kind of, sort of saying, shush, 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 very evilly, like, as she's doing this really horrible, cold thing, just talking to her very gently, like, it's okay, sweetheart, it's okay, it'll be over soon, killing this poor woman. And I actually really like that. It's different enough.
Yeah, she couldn't have pushed her out the window afterwards, could she?
I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't pack a punch, but it's evil in a different way.
Yeah, I do like it. I like the impact of the first one.
I get it. The literal
impact.
I do. I get it. I get it.
My issue was, by this point in 2006, it's also still a very slow film. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get a cool set piece here.
Yeah.
And it didn't come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, now I'm still just kind of bored now.
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna have to wait until the end of the movie now for some excitement.
That's I get it. I do get it.
So the beheading.
Yes, the famous.
I think it's done decently in 2006.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna jump straight to that one.
Okay.
But it's one of the most Final Destination-esque moments of the film. It's like a sign that comes down and beheads, and it looks very good.
The gore is great. Do have to give it that.
Yeah, do have to give it that. But it cannot compete with 76.
No.
Because the glass hitting it, the fact that we see it from several different angles. So, like, this was one of those, right, we got one attempt at this.
Yeah.
But that choice in the edit, and the editor said, Richard Donner said it was so that if you closed your eyes,
By the time you open
them, you
would
still have to watch it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's a bit of genius, that.
It actually is. It's also just like the sound effect of the glass, and I think there's like a bit of a music score maybe as well. But it's the fact that the glass like comes horizontally. It's not something falling onto David Warner. It's horizontally decapitating.
He kept the
him.
head, didn't he?
He did keep the
But
head.
he lost it in his divorce.
He lost it in his divorce.
Can you
But
imagine that divorcing your husband and taking the prop of his decapitated
yeah,
head?
I know. What is she doing with it? But yeah, it's so brilliantly done. Everything about it is so visually, it's so cool. And like, obviously, it's not just the head flying off, but like the way that the body
Like crashes.
reacts to it as well. And then yes, just the different angles were forced to stay with this really horrible moment, and it's so well done. And then also, you know, Gregory Peck's reaction afterwards where he just completely loses his shit. David Warner was his only remaining ally at this point, and he's lost him. It's so well done. Classic scene, like classic horror moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, the 2006, it's good. It is a good decapitation scene. They upped the gore for one thing to make it a little bit more spicy. But then we get like that weird janky like close-up of Liev Schreiber.
Yeah.
I don't even remember, like the camera kind of does like a weird shaky.
Very 2006.
It's good 2006, but 76, man.
Yeah. Obviously, scene not long preceding this is the cemetery scene.
Yeah.
So this is where he obviously finds out that his child didn't naturally die, that he was killed because there's a hole in his skull. So he checks.
Sinister.
Yeah, absolutely sinister. So obviously checks the grave of Damien's birth mother, and there is a jackal there.
The skeleton of a jackal.
The skeleton of a jackal. And a grave of what would have been her child next to it, isn't it? That revelation that they killed
My newborn baby.
his newborn baby. Obviously, guys, we haven't watched the First Omen yet.
No.
Is it the new one? We've seen the First Omen, the original one, obviously, because we're talking about it. I mean, the First Omen.
Yes, yeah.
Which looks like it goes into Damien's conception.
It does look that way, yeah.
But to me, it shouldn't impact an explanation for this scene. Getting an answer to something 50 years later.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't count for me.
No, I agree.
It wasn't made
it's not
with that answer
canon,
already known.
necessarily. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. I also don't think David Seltzer had any involvement in the first. I could be wrong. I don't know. If he did, that might change things.
Future David and Sam here. We have now watched the First Omen. We really liked it. It does go into Damien's conception and birth, but it isn't really relevant to what we were saying in this section of the video.
No, it does change the lore quite considerably. I think all in all, we agree it's a brilliant movie. Really enjoyed it. Not necessarily a good prequel.
We think the First Omen deserves a video of its own at some point in the future, so we'll absolutely do that. But I just wanted to say that we have done our due diligence. We've watched it. We've compared it to what we were trying to say here, but yeah, it doesn't really impact our opinions on the original film and the 2006 one. Now, back to present day David and Sam.
But the 1976 and also 2006, Father Brennan makes it clear that Damien's mother was a jackal. Well, I say make it clear. He makes the comment, she was a jackal. Meaning, in my interpretation, that his birth mother was evil. The mother was evil. The First Omen, from what I can gather by the trailer, isn't making out that a nun was corrupted and there's some kind of like immaculate conception going on. So I don't know how or if they're going to tie in the jackal thing. I don't know. As you know, we've not seen it. We do need to. But to me, 1976 especially, that revelation of seeing that dog skeleton is for me like one of the most jarring thing. I think it's actually the eeriest scene.
It is.
There's so much mystery surrounding
There's
it.
that whole set piece I really like. I was being attacked by the dogs. It's great. And what I kind of thought was, again, thinking, right, is Damien the Antichrist still? All right, they've gone as far as to murder a newborn. Would they go as far as to put a jackal, symbolically put a jackal in the grave of Damien's mother? Because the jackal is a type of dog. Would it be a stretch to think that jackal is just a derogatory term to call a woman that doesn't follow, say, the church or whatnot? Essentially, we're being a dog. It's similar to being called like a bitch or something, not a literal jackal.
But then there's a doggy skeleton.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they've orchestrated so much at this point. We know they've orchestrated like the killing of a child, replacing said child. That's the hospital potentially burning down the hospital. Oh, it's the hospital and nunnery that burns down. It's a nunnery, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're burning that place down. Would it be a stretch to think that they put the skeleton in there?
It's a very far-fetched fucking conspiracy.
I mean, they're essentially religious fanatics, aren't they?
Well, yes.
Even if Damien is the Antichrist, they are fanatics.
Yeah. It is.
Following this prophecy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
I am just very intrigued by this whole jackal thing because, again, there is mystery to, was his birth mother actually evil? Like, was she some kind of, like, I don't know, satanic dog-like being? Why is there a dog skeleton in the grave? Or, yeah, what was it just a turn of phrase? Was it just a derogatory term for meaning the mum was no good? The mum was a horrible person, but ultimately still human. Like, we don't know. We don't know.
I do like the elements of mystery. I like how we don't get the answers. Any answers we do get are them kind of assuming things based on events that have happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 2006's version, I really thought, all right, with what you could get away with in the early 2000s compared to the 70s, with modern day tech and effects, we could do something really cool here. And they just kind of do the same, but less interesting. And that was a big letdown for me, because it's done so well in the original one. It's a great scene. And it just kind of sums up the 2006 film as a whole. It's like, we could have done this.
Yeah.
But we'll just do this instead.
Yeah.
Everything is just toned down. And I don't get why.
There are some moments in 06 that stand out, don't get me wrong. But overall, it's very...
If I'd watched it without watching the original, I probably would enjoy it and then seek out the original.
Yeah.
Watching the two so close together made the flaws stand out. Like I say, I don't love The Omen. I think it's a good film. But even then, like, watching 2006, I'm like, the original's just better.
I do just want to talk another scene comparison. Mrs. Baylock's death. The nanny.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is done quite differently. 1976, we get Billy Whitelaw just going crazy on Gregory Peck's ass. Like, she jumps on him in the kitchen, just goes feral. And they have a very intense showdown in that kitchen. It's very intense. There's an extended fight sequence where they're just going for it. And eventually Peck gets the upper hand, and I think he stabs her in the neck. And I'm pretty sure she just bleeds out in the kitchen, on the kitchen tiles. 2006, Lee Schreiber just runs over Mia Farrow with the car.
I do like that.
And I do like it as well. Like, you still get like that desperate frenzy, and again, Mia Farrow just being so crazy, you know, in her need to protect the son of Satan. Like, she's just all out running wild in the rain and just slams right into it. I do appreciate that difference, but I also find Mrs. Baylock a very interesting character. And again, talking about, you know, is he the Antichrist or is it all just some big conspiracy theory? Mrs. Baylock, I suppose there's nothing definitively that she does to say she is like a satanic follower. She is a worshipper. Like, she is also like a spawn sent to protect him. But we do get that line in 1976, you know, where she first sees him. And she's like, you know, I'm here to protect thee.
I am here to protect thee.
And I think she does use, like, the archaic term.
Yeah.
She doesn't say you, she does say thee. Like, I'm here to protect thee. And she does, like, with her life.
Yeah.
She protects him. Also the dog, obviously.
Yeah.
I suppose, would you then interpret that as, like, she's just a very protective nanny?
Well, I think she's part of the same group of people that swap the kids.
I see.
That has been sent.
So she genuinely believes that.
Yeah, because they didn't apply for her. Someone sent her there.
So
I think they have sent there to keep an eye on Damien.
I see. Okay.
And I don't think that I think that works whether Damien is or isn't the Antichrist.
Yeah, she believes that he is.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so it works. I think it works either way. But she is an interesting character, and I think it does. She does help lean into this. Like, she leans into both theories for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So whether or not Damien is or not, she fully believes that he
She
is,
belie-
and she
and-
will
and-
do
I see.
whatever she can.
Yeah, she's part of the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you.
It has been fun comparing these two movies. It does make me want to explore the sequels to the original more, especially one with Sam Neill, because I like Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, yeah, definitely.
And we will check out the First Omen. We might even have to do a follow-up where, right, with what we know now, but like I said, changes to a story 50 years later, I don't think should impact it, because these films weren't written with that knowledge in mind. A new film has been made that could be changing things that we already know.
Yeah.
But from what I've gathered, the First Omen's actually meant to be pretty decent, so I'm actually kind of curious about watching it.
Do you just want to shout out Jerry Goldsmith, the composer for the OG? It's the only Oscar-winning film. Only Oscar he got as composer.
He did a lot of Star Trek, and he's a great composer.
Did Alien.
He did.
My man did Alien. Very prolific composer. We're just naming a few examples, but yes.
Yeah. Let us know if you've seen the 2006 one. What do you think? Does it have a fan base? Like, I don't think we've shit on it too much. Like, the movie is fine. It's a very competently made movie.
Yeah.
Decently acted. It's just something held it back.
Yeah.
I feel like its own writer held it back.
Potentially.
Maybe the casters weren't paid enough to care. Who knows? That's probably that's harsh. That's really harsh, because I like this cast.
Yeah.
The original will continue to be a classic, even if it's not,
of course,
one of our favourites.
Yeah.
We cannot deny the place it has in
horror
history. Horror movie history.
And how it's influenced other movies, and potentially Final Destination.
And the fact that it is still talked about today.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that. That is incredibly cool. So, thanks a lot, guys. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.